Happy Monday night, everyone. Welcome once again to another WWE Raw review here on the Good Mike Work Commentaries YouTube channel page. We're here to discuss the September 14th edition of Raw, which just ended now, that was stacked and loaded going into it. We had a title match, Asuka and Mickie James. Big main event planned with Keith Lee taking on Drew McIntyre. And we had a big tag champion versus champion tag team match and a big cage match on this show. Despite all of that going in, I think the show ended kind of just with another dud. I don't feel like overall, even though the show had decent parts individually tonight, I don't think it was an overall great Raw. But I was only 70% paying attention because I had a very busy day today. So there's a couple of parts that I even missed that I'm going to ask you guys to help me fill in the blanks on. Just a couple of things, random things when I wasn't paying attention during promos and stuff like that. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good night. Welcome. We'll see how many people want to hang out and talk about this, I suppose, mediocre Raw, although Dominic Mysterio continues to impress, does he not? Can I be heard? All right, we're looking good, I think. You give us C? Okay, show. I thought, based on the promo that we saw earlier with Retribution, what match did they interrupt? Was it Kevin Owens and Aleister Black? Or they didn't interrupt it, but Owens won. But I think after that, they did the promo from the Tron or something like that, and you could really see who a lot of them were. It was clearly Mia Yim. I'm pretty sure it was definitely Mercedes Martinez as well. Definitely Dijakovic. A lot of people said Dio Madden was in the background. And the one dude off to the left looked a lot like The Miz. Like, most of his face was even showing. And we've talked about The Miz being in Retribution and stuff. So, look like him too. I don't know. I've been saying for the past couple of weeks that I think Adam Pearce is a part of Retribution because security can never seem to get it right, and he's in charge of everything back there, seemingly. So I feel like he could be pulling some strings for Retribution, allowing them access to the production truck and, stuff like that. So still, though, it's not an angle that's really lighting my juices, or anything like that, or lighting the world on fire, because it's still really lame. And even the beatdown tonight, I thought based on that promo, we might get some actual revelations, because it was clearly visible who some of them were. So I thought for sure we'd get some hoods revealed tonight, especially the way they were building it up. And you kind of had a feeling going in that they were going to sabotage that Lee and McIntyre match anyway. But it just turned out to be another brawl, and that's it. Show went off the air. Nothing crazy other than that really went down. So we'll go through the show here bit by bit and match by match, and we'll talk about it. And we'll see what you guys think. But good to see you, Barry and Jet the Hawk, and Madeline is here. Tim Barsh, Real American, Liam, Randy Peace, Garth Uvestein, Mr. E, Clyde, Slater, Gomez, Ronnie Matthews, JL, Chris Vindication, Sunny Man. All right. Yeah, I've been saying that all along with the Retribution stuff. Even if you start recognizing people who might be in it, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be in it. But now it feels like, in the last couple of weeks, that WWE is trying to, they're showing us who it is. Like, that's Mia Yim. It's clearly Mia Yim. So if it turns out not to be Mia Yim, we can always point, well, she was there or whatever. So now I almost think like the people who are in it actually are there. But at first, I thought they were just using anybody from NXT, just anybody who could be concealed and, wear that getup and do a few moves in the ring, and then they'll worry about who the actual members are later. But now it's starting to look like they're legitimately in there. And we heard all of the unedited version of the promo from last week, which was just hideous in terms of dialogue and stuff. But when you listen to the actual voices, it definitely sounds like a few current NXT stars. So we'll see. And I'm still curious too with some of them who don't have any true Retribution to get. Look at Mia Yim. She's in a pretty good spot in the company, right? She's featured regularly on NXT. She hasn't won a title or anything yet, but gets TV time. She's with Keith Lee. She doesn't have it bad, so what is she getting Retribution for, So I'm curious to know what the true motivation here is with the individual members, or if this is a collective motivation that's still one big, higher power is pulling the strings of. At this point, that's kind of what you got to hope for, because nobody has really emerged as the leader of this faction yet, right? Unless it's one of those big guys, but Dijakovic being the leader, I don't know. Dio Madden being the leader, I don't know. So I feel like they'll do the reveal of who some of the members are first, and then we'll have a bigger reveal in terms of who's in on it or who's pulling the strings later on. Either way, though, they got a lot of work to do if they want to get me to really care in terms of Retribution. What's going on, Arnez? Good to see you in here as well. So we shall see. None of them is Gerald Briscoe, definitely not. But, you know, if that group continues to grow like the NWO did back in 1996, you could see Scott Norton, you could see Horace Hogan, you could see Steve Mongo McMichael up in there, or he was never in the NWO. I'm thinking of Brian Adams. You can see everybody else and their mother in Retribution if it blows up like that. Bischoff would be a good leader of Retribution. He'd be an excellent leader, actually, of Retribution. I'd be into that. Yeah, but again, I saw that today too about the Triple H invasion. You know, this could be a group of NXT talent, which it clearly is, being led by Triple H to, you know, invade the main roster, but still like, okay, why? But what's their motivation? Why does Triple H want to get revenge unless he considers NXT his baby, and he does, and the relationship that he forms with a lot of the talent there, especially after they win championships and stuff, and then they go to the main roster and they're used like shit, and WWE just kills them. You know, there's probably a few instances there where that's really bothered Triple H. He's like, man, we worked so hard to get this person over, you know, Bobby Roode and whatnot, and then you take them up there and you just, you know, you do nothing with them. So maybe it's Triple H getting back, you know, at the two, or at least at Raw. You got to remember they're only on Raw. So unless they're starting with Raw and then they're going to move on to SmackDown. But from what we heard, you know, what started to be a dual brand angle turned out to be just on Raw. So I don't know. I just don't. It's going to be tough to explain whatever their motivation is, especially now that they're limiting themselves to Raw, because that just doesn't really make any sense. And I think it's WWE being lazy, so they don't have to worry about writing segments for both shows about an angle that the fans are really not, you know, into as it is. So I don't know. Retribution seems like a mess, and I kind of get this feeling that WWE doesn't know what they want to do. Remember when we actually had like okay hopes for it, like somewhat high hopes for it, like the first week? Oh, okay, this might work. Boy, did they change our minds. And the fucking camera work. Did you guys catch that tonight? I mean, it's always bad, but for some reason tonight it really annoyed me when Retribution hit the ring and the camera's just up and down. You know, you feel like you're in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane in the middle of the Atlantic or something. It's crazy. It's so over the top and overdone. And tonight was just extra special, crazy hard to watch. And then, you know, at the end too, we really got no reveal. It was kind of cool to see the Hurt Business come out and be like, look, try to take us on, but they did. They were grossly outnumbered. There was a bunch of them, probably 15 to 20 Retribution members were in that ring tonight. Antoine, what's up, dude? Thanks for the $5. You're saying it's Triple H, saying it's his time to take over WWE because Vince can't cut it anymore. There's some truth to that. Like, that's my biggest thing here with Retribution is whatever the storyline is, it's got to make like somewhat sense, or it's got to, like, the motivation has to be somewhat plausible to the fans or whatever. That kind of is, especially with the way you see Vince and the way he's portrayed, especially in the, you know, in the news sites now and stuff, and how, you know, he's just portrayed as this crazy person, which I think he is, with the constant rewrites and the knee-jerk reactions and the decisions and changing things and tearing up scripts and changing people's outfits and music and all this kind of nonsense. And on top of that, the very poor utilization of NXT talent after they come to Raw or SmackDown, that all works great. But, you know, it's like they're still only targeting Raw, which is just really weird. So I'd be into that, though. I totally would, because it would at least be something that you can see and understand. You know, Triple H is just fed up and he's ready for the company to start moving in the correct direction. And he feels like with Vince in charge, he's killing it. And it would be tying some real life stuff. I mean, the fans could probably get behind that a little bit, especially if Triple H did some shoot promos where he talked about all the dumb shit that Vince has done that we've heard on the dirt sheets, bringing up the Cameo or Twitch stuff or whatever. You know, things like that might be fun for like a couple of weeks before they ruin it. We'll see. And when is the reveal going to happen? If that's the case, is this going to be something that's going to be drug out until Survivor Series? Because that's possible. Especially if they wreak a bunch of havoc at Hell in the Cell, and then the next night on Raw, they're going to say, okay, enough is enough. Big match at Survivor Series, and if we win, then you must reveal your leader, or what, I don't know, something like that. They could do that. I'd be into it. Devlin, what's up? Appreciate the $5. Looks like I'm going to be missing Raw for the foreseeable future. Football is taking priority. Oh, yeah, that's right. Football is back. It's kicked off yesterday. I watched a little bit of the Bucks and the Saints. But really have only been eyeballing. Who the hell's playing tonight? Tennessee and Denver. I met John Elway about 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago. Came into the restaurant. Yeah, football still takes priority for a lot of people. I'm just really glad I didn't have to do fantasy this year because I was being bothered by it again. Like last year, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to retire. I just overplaying fantasy football, but it came down to where like they needed one more person to fill the league, and so I didn't want to leave them hanging. So I'm like, okay. And so this year, I just kept my mouth shut about it, and I made it all the way to like the Tuesday before the first game, which was on Thursday. And my buddy texted me. He's like, hey, you want to get on the fantasy? We're going to try to throw together and scramble a last-minute league. And I'm like, not really, but if it comes down to that situation where you need me to play, I'll do it. But luckily, they weren't able to pull it together in time, and I'm off the hook, and I'm officially retired from fantasy football. Which is good because now I can concentrate a little bit more on the games and actually watch them and not have to worry about I need a running back to get a touchdown or I need a quarterback to throw for 50 yards. I can just watch the game with no stress, and that's when football season to me is most enjoyable. So I'm going to try to watch a little more this year than I did last year. Adrian Peterson to my Lions. How crazy is that? Antoine, appreciate the $5 again. And Fox told them they didn't want an Antifa-like group on the channel. It's not WWE, that it was a Fox call. Okay, I didn't read up on any of that, if that's the case. Yeah, so then that might have, I mean, if that's the case, if that's what happened, and Fox is the one that threw a monkey wrench into those plans, that means they might have to reevaluate what the motivation is. Because if it's something that doesn't make sense to only target Raw, they might have to alter that, or they might have to slowly change what Retribution looks like. You know, they're going to be doing this angle on Raw for a while until you get the reveal. And then once they don't have the hoods on anymore, and we know who they are, they can start wrestling in maybe a little bit more different looking gear, maybe just dressed in all black. And then they could maybe work SmackDown after they change, you know, what they're doing, like the hood stuff and the violence and all that crap. So, could be. Could be. Yeah, and if it does turn out to be a match at Survivor Series, you know they're going to lose. And then what you've done, once they lose, kind of like the Invasion in 2001, when WCW lost, some of the talent basically just kind of went away, but a lot of it just stayed and got absorbed by the company and started slowly got infiltrated into storylines like Booker T and others that were on the losing side. So, if they do that with Retribution at Survivor Series, now you got another chunk of talent. And you already don't know what to do with the talent you have there. Now you've just added another 10 to 12 members of your Raw roster or SmackDown roster, and more, people just to lose the magic that they had in NXT. So it feels like no matter which way you slice it, it ends badly. And I don't like to be the cynical channel. We try to be cool on this channel. We're positive. I don't see too much, positive results, at the end of this thing. I don't know what they could possibly do that would change anything that they've already done, in terms of how it's been presented and stuff. And it's been hokey. So I expect the blow or the payoff to be just as bad, most likely, but we'll see. Ooh, bring back Nexus and do Nexus versus Retribution. That would be fun, especially if you get that like 2010 bunch back. I'd be into that. Well, let's start talking about Raw. We'll go through the show here, match by match. Like I said, they loaded it up with four pretty big matches. They had Keith Lee taking on Drew McIntyre, which surprised us because we're surprised they were doing that match already. And Asuka's going to defend the women's title against Mickie James. We got the champion versus champion tag team match coming up as well this week, and they advertised Dominic Mysterio against Seth Rollins again. And then I believe it was not advertised as a cage match, but made one tonight. Is that how it worked? Because I didn't know it was a cage match until Raw, until I saw the graphic of those two. And it was pretty loaded, and it had some good moments, but overall, just, I agree with the people that said C in terms of letter grade. I'd probably go 6.5 on this one if I'm doing 1 to 10, something in there. But let's talk about it. Drew McIntyre opened up the show with a promo, and we should have seen this coming because we've all been calling like the IC title match being a ladder match at Clash of Champions, which is likely going to happen and will probably be set up this week. I don't know why it didn't occur to me that an ambulance match would be the likely stip for Orton and McIntyre, because you should do a stipulation like this, and given the fact that they've both been sent to the hospital by the other, ambulance match makes sense. So McIntyre challenges him to that. He also shows a kind of a Photoshop pic, kind of like Randy Orton did. I made it the thumbnail because I just couldn't think of anything else better for this thumbnail. And it's got all of McIntyre's Claymore victims all in hospital beds, Brock and Big Show and Ziggler and Seth and somebody else. So that was pretty funny. Now, here's where I missed it because I had to take a couple of phone calls and I was not paying attention. Adam Pearce comes out, and I think he made that stipulation that I had trouble grasping because I wasn't paying attention, but it was something about the McIntyre-Lee match. Like, if Lee won, tonight, then he would wrestle McIntyre in the ambulance match instead if Randy Orton couldn't compete or something like that. So Adam Pearce comes out to say something, then Randy Orton comes out, and I missed the rest of it. So all I know is an ambulance match was proposed there, and that's now official, and it's just iffy as to whether or not or Randy Orton was on the screen. I'm sorry. I think it's iffy if Randy Orton can even be cleared for the match, I guess is what they're claiming. So that's kind of a blur. But I think at the end of the day there, the only important bit coming out of that segment was the fact that it's going to be an ambulance match at Clash of Champions. I also only got a chance to eyeball the Street Profits and Cesaro and Sheamus match, so I was watching it but wasn't listening to the commentary and wasn't paying attention, but I know the Street Profits got the win there. Was there shenanigans? Did they win that straight up and clean? Or can Cesaro and Cesaro and Nakamura, I think I said Cesaro and Sheamus, can Cesaro and Nakamura make a case for a rematch? Because I still think it's going to lead to what I hope is a unification match. We talked about that last week. They wouldn't bring Cesaro and Nakamura to Raw to even challenge these guys to begin with if they weren't going to do that, I think. Otherwise, it'd be such a random waste of time. And plus, you're running the risk of one of your champions losing to the other, seemingly making it the inferior belt type of thing. So if you're going to do this whole thing, unify these titles, and just unify them and make the tag team title just like the women's, where the champions can face teams on all three brands. That would be sweet. So I don't know what really went on in that match, if you guys can fill me in. What's going on, Adam? Good to see you. And Deshaun Robinson, appreciate the $5. I made the decision tonight to watch my Giants lose to the Steelers, then watch In Your Face Monday Night Raw. Yeah, what was with the In Your Face? I like how they have these like meaningless taglines. Why was this Ross in our face, but last week's wasn't in our face? Or is that the tagline they've been using for several Raws? But just what a dumb waste of a random tagline. Ooh, tonight's Raw, is in your face, y'all. We got to watch it. Did you guys hear that? It's going to be in your face. Boy, I got to tune in to see that. Like, they act like Raw being in your face is a good thing. We don't like Raw in our face. It's a chore to watch. And tonight was vastly no different than most weeks. Where did we leave off with the tag team match, right? Hurt Business promo up next. Of course, we saw Cedric Alexander turn heel last week, and he's out there, looks pretty good in the t-shirt, I think, don't you? And he cuts a promo explaining his actions, why he chose to join the Hurt Business and all of that, and about business and money and whatnot. Ricochet and Apollo come out, no surprise there. That leads to Ricochet versus Cedric right here. So they gave it to us right away on Raw. Cedric wound up winning, but the lights go out right after that, and that's when we get the Retribution promo. They come on the Tron, and you got a really, really, really good look at their face. So it was definitely Dijakovic, definitely Mia Yim, and definitely Mercedes Martinez. The other ones looked to be Dio Madden and potentially even The Miz, and that's definitely who it was in this. And they seemed like they weren't really concealing it that much. It was almost like WWE wanted you to recognize them because they're very easily recognizable, most of them, especially Mia Yim. You can just tell her eyes, and Mercedes a little bit too. So you can definitely tell who that was, but I feel like they maybe should have given Ricochet and Cedric a little bit more time. I like Cedric's promo. It was pretty good. I thought he looked great in the Hurt Business shirt. And I kind of liked it when Ricochet had him down a couple of times and MVP was kind of getting in his face, saying, come on, Cedric, you got to get up, kind of showing him no love, and just being hard on him and say, come on, get up there, but not being too hard on him type of thing. So they're trying to toughen up Cedric. And I think it'll be a good fit for him in the Hurt Business, provided WWE keeps the Hurt Business as a thing and doesn't just fold the whole idea like they tend to do with so many other factions. But we knew after that Retribution promo that we were likely going to see him later in the show. And like I said earlier, I thought based on that promo and the fact that we could see so many of their faces that they would do some sort of a reveal tonight, especially when you have a first-time ever match, a big-time match, Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre in your main event. You probably don't want to do a finish in that, so having Retribution come in and sabotage that seemed like the way to go, and that's what we saw. I just expected, maybe a couple of hoods to be taken off, but we're not getting that yet. Next up, we had the women's title matches and the WWE Raw women's title match, Asuka defending against Mickie James, and is it just me, or are there a whole bunch of matches lately where there's been, screwy finishes? Last week, they did the deal where Ricochet kicked out at, 1.5, and they still counted down the pin. And Mickie and Asuka here have themselves a pretty decent little match. Better and longer. WWE gave them more time than I thought they would. I know it was at least one commercial break. And I was happy about that. I was happy that the two were given some time to actually work in there. The ref winds up calling for the bell when Asuka's got Mickey in the Asuka lock, and he just calls for the bell. She doesn't submit. He says that she can't continue. She looks right at him like, dude, what are you doing? Ref looks a little bit confused, and it was just one of those more wonky finishes, and they say still Raw Women's Champion Asuka. She's announced as the winner, and then it takes another bizarre turn right after she beats Mickey. Zelina Vega's music hits, and Zelina, of all people, randomly walked down. She's been so mixed up in everything else with her crew and her stable, even though she does wrestle from time to time. Why is she coming out here and getting in Asuka's face? Is she crazy? And she comes down and says that she wants a shot at the title and she wants to refocus on winning that, and even goes on to slap Asuka across the face, and Asuka just screams at her and she runs away. So I guess Asuka versus Zelina coming up. I hope not at Clash of Champions. They can just do that on Raw and have Asuka beat her in 6 seconds is all I need there. But it was a very strange kind of segment there, and somebody said that the referee the entire time when Zelina was cutting her promo was with Mickie James. So maybe she got injured and the referee decided to stop the match, but the look on her face when he called for the bell was very like, what do you do? He seemed like he didn't know what was going on, the referee. So that was strange. I'll be curious to see what the story with that is. If it was an injury deal, if the referee was trying to be careful, and maybe they're on their toes a little bit based on what happened in AEW with Matt Hardy, and everybody wants to make sure they do the right thing. Maybe the referee saw something or noticed something in Mickie James and he thought she might be hurt, so he just called for the bell to end the match or something. I don't know, but it looked botched. It looked weird, and I hope Mickie is okay, but she did appear to be. I mean, the way she looked at him was strange. So anyway, that was another kind of a weird-ass match there. Didn't know what to make of that. And really curious how a Zelina Vega and Asuka match will look. It better be a squash. That's all I'm saying. You hope Naveed wants next week's Raw to be called Raw. I swear we're trying. They're barely trying, man. I don't know if many people watch Raw tonight. Look at our audience in here. It's pretty low. Smash that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. After that, we had a one-on-one match in the ring with Bobby Lashley taking on Eric of the Viking Raiders. Bobby Lashley made quick work of him. Ivar apparently is recuperating from the spill he took last week, and he's been shown a lot of love on social media, and he thanked everyone for that and says that he hopes to be back. So we'll keep our eye on the situation with Ivar there, but Lashley did not really break a sweat beating Eric there. It was a pretty quick match. After that, we got the big cage match. Dominic is back again to face Seth Rollins. I was a little surprised when they announced this match because we don't really need it again, but they're in the cage, so that makes it a little bit better, and this should hopefully serve as the blow-off match and finally put to bed this whole thing. What I was hoping to get out of this match here. Dominic, as usual, has got the entire family with him. This is like a faction. It's like the Mysterio faction. And Rollins is also shown backstage with Buddy, and he's trying to kind of forgive him, and he tells Buddy to be ready, and he needs him out there to back him up or whatever. So we then get the cage match. Dominic, as always, continues to impress, kicking ass in there, doing all sorts of crazy physical moves. Murphy at one point, he's distracted on the outside of the ring or something. Dominic and Seth are kind of wrestling to get near the door, and Buddy accidentally slams the cage door into the head of Seth Rollins. And at that point, I thought Dominic was really going to win because he starts climbing out the cage the other side. Murphy sprints around to the other side of the cage to head him off and stops him from escaping, and he stays in the ring and wrestles a little longer with Seth Rollins before Seth hits him with a really awesome top-of-the-cage superplex into the Falcon's Arrow, and Dominic wound up getting stomped twice after that, even despite kicking out of that superplex and Falcon's Arrow, which was awesome. He took a stomp, and then he took another stomp to kind of seal the deal, and Seth Rollins pinned Dominic right in front of his whole family, and that's that. Now, after the match, he's talking to Buddy. It looks like he's forgiving him because Buddy screwed up big time, and he looks like he's kind of welcoming back into the Monday Night Messiah, and then winds up taking Buddy and slams him into the cage and says, "How do you like it?" and seemingly officially turns now on Buddy Murphy by whipping his ass. So does that mean this is the end of the Monday Night Messiah? Is Seth going to continue this gimmick and just get new friends or get new members, or what's going to happen here? And I guess we're going to have a little mini program here with maybe Seth and Murphy, unless Murphy is so brainwashed that he's going to continue to try to win back the trust and the love of Seth Rollins in upcoming weeks. I don't know, but Seth put a pretty hefty beat down on Buddy, and it looks like the whole Mysterio thing is now done. And we'll see what happens next. Did you guys catch the WWE Day Of special? It was the one on SummerSlam, and it was a really cool moment after the Dominic match when he came back to Gorilla and Vince hugged him and, kind of said, good job out there. Not many people, get that kind of reaction. Even people who've been in the business for a long time. And it was kind of a special moment. I know we all hate Vince right now, but it was a very wholesome type of interaction between the two. I liked it a lot. So go check that out if you haven't seen it. It's like 20 minutes long on the WWE Network. Really good stuff from SummerSlam. And now we'll see. I'm kind of hoping this is the end of the entire family being out there, because at some point Seth's going to have to stomp the daughter, right? Am I going to hell for kind of hoping the daughter gets stomped just for heat? But there's no reason to do that now, because it seems like this long-running issue that's dated all the way back to the summer and the eyeball thing, it's got to end. No reason to do any more now, and hopefully that's it. But from now on, I think if Dominic goes off on his own and has like a singles run in the company, I wouldn't want my family at ringside watching me wrestle in every damn match. That would be very uncomfortable. I'd be very self-conscious. So I don't think Dominic needs to have them all out there. I was kind of hoping we'd see some crazy heel turn, because we were talking about that all the way prior to SummerSlam as well. Oh, is Dominic going to turn on his dad? I'd like to see Dominic celebrating. I put this on Twitter, like celebrating with Rey Mysterio on his shoulders the way he does. And then like Angie does the Triple H like thumbs down thing, and then Dominic dumps Rey, and then the entire family, daughter and Angie, mom, daughter, and son, just beat down dad. Just put the boots to him while Rey is screaming on the ground. I mean, he's the smallest member of the family. He's the father, and he's the smallest person. So the three of them gang up on him and whoop dad's ass. I think that might be funny. That's just for my own amusement, though. Many might not agree. We had some Raw Underground shenanigans tonight as well. Braun Strowman showed up on Raw Underground. He approached the big door with Shane and Shaq, and he's, I want to run, I want to be in, go kick somebody's ass or whatever. So Shane lets him in. But prior to that, we had a couple of matches. Ziggler was up first. By the way, Ziggler was on commentary for the first part of Monday Night Raw tonight. Don't know what the story is there. It was Ziggler, Saxton, and Cole. So I don't know where Tom Phillips is and where Samoa Joe is. Didn't read up on where they were. Don't know. Hopefully everybody's okay. But Ziggler left commentary to go be on Raw Underground instead, and MVP would take his place. So they had a couple of guest announcers tonight for Raw, and I thought both did really well. Ziggler was pretty good. So is MVP. So I'm fine with either one of those two guys sitting in. They used to do that shit all the time in the 90s. There was a few guys like Honky Tonk Man, Roddy Piper, Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect. Who else? Would sit in sometimes on commentary. Honky Tonk Man even sat in on commentary every now and then. So I kind of like that they still do that from time to time, like with Joe and even CM Punk back in the day was an announcer for a short time. So Ziggler is in the Raw Underground ring first. He's beating the hell out of some guy and beats him via submission. That's when Riddick Moss jumps in, and Riddick and Dolph go at it for a little while, and that's when Braun shows up. So Braun interferes. He destroys both. We go to another segment or something, and they come back, and Titus O'Neil has shown up. He wants to get into Raw Underground too, so Shane lets him in, and then we get Braun Strowman beating down Titus. And then after that, Braun beats up another guy. And then Riddick Moss shows back up along with Dolph Ziggler, and they take on Braun 2-on-1 for a while. So Braun is just dominating everybody after he disposes of Riddick and Dolph again. In comes Dabba-Kato, is that his name? And this guy that used to be called Babatunde or whatever. So it's either Dabba-Kato or Dabba-Kato or Dabba-Kato or Avocado. I don't know. He gets in the ring, has a big face-to-face with Braun Strowman, and Shane, he's got promoter's blood. It jumps right in. He's like, this is going to be next week. Next week, it'll be Dabba-Kato. I'm trying to think, what's his name again? Dabba-Kato and Braun Strowman, one-on-one in the Raw Underground ring next week. So that's actually kind of interesting. I might want to see that, because it seems like they're putting that guy over. He's been the most dominant one in Raw Underground so far. So now if Braun comes in there, and Braun's all pissed off, and he's, very pissy right now for the situation that's been going on with him, losing his title and all of that on SmackDown. So we'll see if they, sacrifice poor Dabba-Kato to Braun here next week or what, or if Braun maybe meets his match and we got another big monster on our hands to see on TV. Because I think if you're going to do this Raw Underground, it should be used to make somebody, not make somebody that's already made type of thing. So somebody that's kind of been, waiting in the wings or in NXT or hasn't really had the creative hasn't had a big idea for them yet or whatever. Just somebody sitting there like Dabba-Kato, and they say, oh, this will be a good way to kind of get him over. The same thing with Riddick Moss is a good way to kind of introduce him and get fans a little bit familiar with his wrestling style and shit like that. So I think you should be making more of those guys than putting over current talent. We've seen the Hurt Business be very dominant in there, and now Braun. I think some of the underground people need to be the ones shining in here more than the current stars. But I don't know if Braun's going to be really putting anybody over in that underground ring. So we'll see. We will see. And I agree, Murphy and Rollins will be awesome. I mean, that's going to be a fun series of matches if they do that. Super good matches. The daughter and Buddy are going to have a romantic thing. I don't know. You can see the wife getting stomped. I don't know. Could she take that bump? She probably could. We shouldn't question the Mysterios. I mean, if Dominic is able to wrestle at that level at 23 years old, and he's been probably trained since, he was just a kid and stuff, I have no doubt Angie can take a bump. I think it'd be cool if the daughter was secretly training. Like, we don't know that she is, and then she, turns up or does a run-in or one time and saves him, and then turns out to be a women's wrestler. They'd be great in the mixed match challenge. Have we had any, I got to think, have we had any brother and sister tag teams? Like not kayfabe brother and sister, but like actual brother and sister. I can't think of any. It's got to be at least one. Oh, thank you for that, Chris Clark. The only thing you've been liking about wrestling for a while is following my channel. Thank you for your resilience and content. Well, I appreciate that. We've been talking about that for years. Ever since I started these live streams, we said, sometimes it's what helps get us through it. I'm able to come up here and talk to you guys after the show, and it doesn't feel quite as torturous. And if you're somebody that only likes to kind of eyeball the product or whatever, you can, rely on this channel to, give a thorough review after the show and stuff, and just do it that way. But sometimes it can be hard. Tonight was one of those nights where it was just hard. Sorry, I'm just fixing something. There we go. What's going on, Ungovernable? Oh, she got signed by WWE, the daughter? Okay. Well, that would make sense why they're keeping her on TV so much. What came after that match, after the Raw Underground stuff? Well, we had the cage match, and then we had several Raw Underground segments, but I kind of combined those all into one there. And after that, we had the Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre brawl. So this all took place backstage in that ring that they have set up back there. They're talking to each other, and it's kind of a face-to-face, and Lee is trying to put his hands on McIntyre, and he's like, no, and he keeps shooing him away, like, don't touch me kind of thing. And Lee is not backing down, and he finally tries to put on his hand on his shoulder again, and Drew punches him, like, right in the neck, and they start brawling with each other outside of the three-sided ring, and they're all, just brawling through the backstage area. And I have no idea why I found this so funny, but Michael Cole on commentary is like, he goes, these guys are like best friends. And Saxton, without even missing a beat, he goes, not right now. I don't know why I found that exchange so funny. It's really not, but I just laughed like out loud. It was just funny the way it came out. These guys are really good friends. Not now, or not right now. Funny shit. I don't know why I found that hilarious, but so they're brawling, and I think they cut away during the brawl. And then we get Kevin Owens taking on Aleister Black. One-on-one match. I kind of like Aleister's big eye thing that he wears, although he doesn't wrestle with it. And tonight he was out there wrestling skin painted on tight pants, leather pants. I mean, they look like they were just literally painted on his legs. Zelina, girl, stop dressing your husband. I don't know if that look really works for him. It's a little much. I just was laughing the whole time because they're so incredibly tight. But he's out there wrestling all in all black. And now that, and it made me think about something, now that Andrade and Angel Garza seem to be fully imploding, because we saw them battle and brawl backstage as well prior to Zelina confronting Asuka. So maybe she's going to do away with them. Maybe she's going to dump them. And her and Aleister, if they're being a little bit more, if Aleister kind of dresses a little bit like her, I could see them pairing them up. I think that would work. I think they'd look good together. Maybe like a modern day Sable and Mark Marrow, although Aleister Black just looks a lot more badass than Mark Marrow did. And, because when Sable, when they first came in, she used to wear that leather, that leather outfits, and Zelina wears a lot of shit like that sometimes. So, maybe they're heading to, pair them up or something. I don't know. But we don't get a finish here. They battle for, or we do get a finish. We don't get a clean finish, I should say. They battle for a little while. The lights flicker again. It's just enough to distract Aleister Black. He eats a stunner from Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens picks up the win. So that issue is clearly not over, and that'll continue on TV, I'm sure, for a while. So that was that. The next matchup was interesting. Let's talk about this stuff. So we've got Natalya and Lana taking on Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott, who are now reunited as the Riott Squad. They've been on a pretty good winning streak lately as well. You had Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler on commentary for this match. And again, I was a little bit distracted, but it looked like a pretty solid and easy win for the Riott Squad. And correct me if I'm wrong, did Liv pin Lana? I think. Pretty sure. I know Lana took the pin, but I can't remember who pinned her. And that was that. So Lana and Natalya took the loss after the match. Shayna and Nia get off headset, and they corner Lana in the ring all by herself. So Ruby and Liv have gotten out of there. I have no idea where Natalya was, but she wasn't running in there to save Lana. And they grab Lana, and they throw her to the outside of the ring, and Nia Jax nails a huge Samoan drop right on Lana through the announce table. And I just want to say this about Nia Jax. It was a good-looking spot, and she did a really good job of protecting Lana. If you go back and watch that, she had her neck completely covered in her arms. She was holding her super tight. She went back and really did an excellent job of taking care of Lana. So she definitely wasn't reckless or dangerous or needed to be sent down to NXT tonight. She did a really good job of making sure that Lana was able to take that move without getting seriously injured. But if that beatdown would have gone any longer, like if they would have picked her up and done it again or something, I would have thought that could be a write-off, like writing somebody off TV. We just saw Miro debut on Wednesday on Dynamite. Do you think it's possible that she could be on her way out? I have no idea. I haven't read any news today at all. But it felt like the way she kind of took the loss in the ring and then got beat down after the match and her partner kind of abandoned her, that might be a way to like write her off. But it was just one Samoan drop. It's probably not that bad. But it could either be them writing her off TV if she says, yeah, when my contract is up, I'm not going to re-sign, because WrestleVotes, the WrestleVotes Twitter account today, did say that there is somebody in WWE that has said they will not be re-signing when their contract is up, but they didn't say who that person is. So it could be anybody. But maybe it is Lana. Maybe it's Lana's like, I want to go be with my husband. I don't want to do the long distance thing and have two people working in different companies. It was hard for Moxley and Renee. It's probably hard for Adam Cole and Britt Baker and Spears and Peyton and anybody else. I mean, there's so many couples that are crossed over. It's 4 now, possibly even 5 between the two companies. That's like a lot. So maybe Lana just says, might as well just send me off to go be with my husband or whatever. And, you know, it's not like it's going to be a big loss for WWE, but it's not like them to do that. You know, they always screw with people and hold them hostage. So maybe they're not letting Lana go, and now that Miro's in WWE, they're just going to make her lose all the time. It's probably not going to be good for Lana on TV. She's not going to be challenging for any championships or anything like that. Maybe, I mean, I thought she had a chance to with Natalya, and they could maybe make a run at the tags, but it doesn't appear that like they got any shot at that right now anyway. So what do you guys think? I mean, based on what they did to Lana tonight, I thought maybe they were just writing her off TV. And she'll sit out the remainder of her contract, however long that might be, and then she'll sit through her no-compete, and then maybe in 6 months, she'll be in AEW alongside Miro. Maybe. And we'll see what AEW can do with that duo, instead of them putting them in ridiculous angles and making them marry different people and get giant wedding cakes in the ring and shit like that. We'll see. But it just made me think, just the way it was all set up, I'm like, that was not a good showcase for Lana. When it happened to Kairi Sane, we all thought the same thing. Oh, she must be leaving. So anyway, just a thought. Y'all probably know better than me. Oh, Natalya got thrown into the post. Okay, so she was just selling being hurt on the outside of the ring. Oh, you think it's either Joe or Cesaro? I'd be fine with that. Oh, man. I would love Cesaro in AEW. He'd be great. Samoa Joe would too, but in a lot of ways, I might even prefer Cesaro. But that sucks though. Like he's such a guy that should have been a champion, like a major champion in WWE, no doubt. Like in his ability and stuff. But the fact that he never was, you know, just like Brody Lee and others. If he did go to AEW, you'd never hear the end of it. Oh, another WWE guy they put over, because I just did the big video, or Mike dropped on that the other day. Because now it's getting to the point where anybody that goes over there, they come out of the woodwork. Oh, it's just WWE cast-offs and stuff, which sucks when that opinion starts happening, because great talent like Cesaro now has to hear that shit, but they're a good talent. They're a signable person. Any wrestling company should want Cesaro, regardless if he worked in WWE or not. But thinking of Cesaro in an AEW ring, challenging for the TNT championship or working with all sorts of guys over there, I think would be super fun. I really hope it's him. I worry that Joe, just, given his age and his injuries and stuff, I almost think Cesaro might be more fun to watch there. But if Joe came in, I would hope he'd make a run at the title too, man. Yeah, there's not everybody you want to see jump there, but there's some talent when you think about it. I'm like, oh man, they'd be so much better. I think Cesaro being all elite would be fucking great. I'd be into that. What happened next after the tag team match? Was that the main event? And then that was it? I guess so, right? Keith Lee taking on Drew McIntyre. We knew we weren't going to get a finish here. And based on the Retribution stuff earlier on in the show, we were just waiting for them to show up. They did. They arrived. Many of them arrived, hit the ring, felt like 20 of them at least. Beat down McIntyre and Keith Lee pretty bad. Left them laying. Then the Hurt Business music plays. They come out to the ramp, and I thought for a second, I've mentioned this before, I think we talked about this last week, the old school ECW, WCW-like alliance when they all met in the ring and then turned their backs and turned around together and attacked the WWE guys and revealed that they are aligned together. I thought it might be something like that because I was looking at the time, and Hurt Business comes out to the ramp, and there's still like 2 or 3 minutes left. And, they come down. I thought they were going to do a stare down, smile at each other, and hug. I thought like something like that was going to happen. Like just really, thickening the plot a lot, saying, oh, what does this mean, with these two teaming up? But they wound up brawling instead. I think Lee and McIntyre both did dives over the top rope or something onto Retribution. And we had the crazy shaky cameras, which was way more noticeable than usual for me tonight, at least for me. Really drove me nuts the way they were doing that. And that was it. And then that was the end of the show. So we didn't get any sort of a big swerve or a big reveal. We got a match, which I think was cool to see for the first time, but a match that was also extremely predictable. You knew Retribution was likely going to sabotage this, and we'll get a no contest or a DQ or whatever, because WWE's probably not going to beat either one of them in a situation like this right now. And we didn't get any cherry on top. Like, I was fine with Retribution showing up, but we didn't get like another piece of the puzzle revealed. It was just the same shit, other than the Hurt Business coming out and brawling them with it a little bit. Other than that, it's like the same stuff from Retribution. I want to see like little clues. We haven't really seen that. We haven't really gone through like what the clues are, what their motivation is, who their members are, things like that. It's just they're just doing the same stuff. It just feels like empty writing. I don't know. Like if they're going to attack a main event, I want them to reveal one more piece, that fans can think about, discuss in streams like this, to where we can say, okay, so-and-so said this, or, they got on the mic and said this, and they attacked during this person's match. And, oh, look, they've attacked this person's match now 3 times, but they've never attacked this person's match, or something like that. Just give us something to go on here where we can have fun and play with it. But that's not what this angle is about. It's just same crap every week, to the point where the fans, I don't think any of us really care at this point where it's going. And I don't think anybody on YouTube does either, because look at this audience. Yikes. Yikes, yikes. Nakamura in AEW would be sweet. I'd be into that as well. Nakamura, I think, though, did resign recently, if I remember right. I remember us talking about that on some podcasts in the past few months. So I feel like he might be around for a while, which makes sense. I mean, given his age and everything, he should probably, try to pull in as big of money contracts as he can right now. But I'd love to see him in AEW. Think about it, man. You work once a week. I suppose most WWE stars right now in the COVID era do, but normally they're on the road, man. House shows and all. Good question, Andrew Linnell. We talked about that. Last week I talked about Drew McIntyre's opponent at Hell in the Cell, and what I had speculated on is I think it would probably be Randy Orton again. It'll probably be like a 3 pay-per-view program, because if it's not Randy Orton, that means McIntyre's going to have to finish his ambulance match with Randy Orton and apparently, finish up that feud, especially if he's victorious. And then they're going to have to make a brand new opponent for him for Hell in the Cell. That's fine, but that match better not be in a cell. Because Drew McIntyre, who does he have? Who's he going to be able to build an issue with that quick? Unless it's somebody like Keith Lee, where you're building some heat now to where they can really develop more and more bad blood in the next like 6 or 8 weeks or whatever. I almost think if he has a match at Hell in the Cell, it should not be in the cell. Other matches should be in the cell, like Bayley and Sasha. I think definitely will be in the cell. And maybe maybe the Universal title match, maybe Roman and Bray again or something, and maybe Drew McIntyre just wrestles somebody else in a normal match. That's what I would do. But now that the stipulation at the Clash is an ambulance match, I feel like it's still a possibility that they could go in the cell, because you're not going to get a true winner, because the winner throws their opponent in the ambulance, right? So I suppose Randy Orton could even win the title with some bullshit with Drew getting shut in the, maybe he just falls in there. Remember years ago when they had I loved the finish. It was Strowman and Roman. And I think the finish was Roman went for the spear, and Strowman moved and he just dove into the ambulance and he shut the door. I laughed my ass off at that finish. So if it's something like that, if McIntyre goes for a Claymore, like Orton's up against the open ambulance doors in the back, McIntyre goes for a Claymore and Orton ducks and he just slides ass first right into the back of the ambulance. He shuts the doors. He would win and he would be champion, but he would also win on a fluke. And then Drew can come out and hit the ring the next night. Enough of this bullshit. Enough is enough. We've had 2 matches. You think it was cheap that I rolled you up with a backslide and then you threw me in an ambulance. Why don't we have the one type of match that we know, or at least we're supposed to know, is going to get a clear-cut, definitive winner? Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre, Hell in the Cell, and Randy Orton can defend the title and lose the title back to Drew in the Hell in the Cell. They could do it that way. Otherwise, if Drew has a match at Hell in the Cell, it shouldn't be in Hell in the Cell. It should just be a match. Let Bayley and let Sasha do the cell thing, and likely let Roman do something too, because if Roman is in the cell, he can kill someone. Shit, man, he could spear little Alexa Bliss, right? If it turns out to be like Roman and Bray Wyatt in the cell, maybe Strowman gets involved. Maybe it's another 3-way deal. But if it's just Roman and The Fiend, maybe Alexa Bliss is hiding under the ring and she comes out and Roman just spears her. Why not? Why not? Because he's going to murder his cousin at the Clash. So, yeah, I think if Drew and Orton, or Drew and Randy's issue ends at Clash, no cage match or no cell match for Drew. It's my opinion. Who do I think would benefit from switching from AEW to NXT? I don't know yet. As a matter of fact, that was a point I wanted to bring up in the podcast on Saturday when I went on the long-winded explanation of why I don't believe in the AEW is WWE cast-offs argument. But one thing I wanted to say is that AEW is like too young yet to where people really want to jump the other way. Like in time, as AEW grows older, you are going to have a disgruntled employee over there. Somebody is going to feel like they weren't given the proper opportunity at some point. I don't think everybody's going to have the same type of heat towards AEW like WWE has. But, even the best run companies, even WWE in the height of their Attitude Era days still had guys that felt like they weren't, being treated the way they should and stuff. So at some point, somebody will be in AEW and say, hey, I've been here for 3 years now and I'm still wrestling on Dark. I know I'm better than this. I want out of here. And, they go sign on NXT and WWE makes them a star. I think that can happen one day, but I think AEW being only a year old and being on cable TV for less than a year, I think it's too soon to think. But there's a couple, I think somebody like Sammy Guevara, in NXT, in that environment, in that developmental system, and working with all those people, he could be fun because he's got a funny amount of charisma. He could be like an Enzo type character, except someone who can wrestle, and Enzo can't. WWE could probably do fun things with him and shit like that, but I also think people should just stay where they are as long as they're happy there. Yeah, Austin Olsen, I agree with that too. That also feels like it's a very likely possibility, a Keith Lee heel turn. He could do some, Drew ready to throw Orton in and Lee could come down and shove him. Yeah, so you mean because with an ambulance match, that means it's also no disqualification. You can do whatever you want. So Keith Lee making his presence known in that match, especially if he doesn't have a match of his own at the Clash, I think is very likely. And if he comes out there and costs Drew the title, I think even Retribution could come in, because what's stopping them from just swarming McIntyre and just picking him up and tossing him in the ambulance or whatever. So I think Randy Orton has got a chance to win the belt on a fluke here and then maybe cough it back up to Drew in the cell. I wouldn't exactly hate that. I don't think I'd really hate that because it would give us one more match, and I think a Drew and Orton cell match could be good. They've gone this far. They've sent each other to the hospital. Now we're having an ambulance match. Might as well go the full distance. Go one more. And then if Lee survives all of that, or I'm sorry, McIntyre survives all that, then he's got a heel Lee waiting there for him in the wings. Oh, thank you for that, Deshaun Robinson. Where did you read this news? Deshaun is telling me it's a rumor. A rumor is that WrestleMania 37 won't be taking place in LA because the Raw and SmackDown after Mania has been changed and no longer taking place. No longer taking place in LA or no longer taking place? Where'd you read this? I really hope that that's true. Because I've been talking about WrestleMania lately and how it was supposed to go. It was all planned to go next year in LA, but now it's probably not going to work out. And I'd rather it not be here so I can still be up on the night of the pay-per-view to do a review. Because the very next morning after WrestleMania, I hop on a plane to Hawaii for a week. So it was really going to be hard for me to go to WrestleMania in LA, then get all the way back home here to San Diego, then pack all my shit up, and then be on a plane just a few hours later. 6-hour flight in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I'd be a mess. I wouldn't even know what day it is. I think it was Christmas. So it would be really exhausting to have to do all that. So I'm hoping, just for my sake, that it actually is not here. Okay, so here's a little word on Retribution from tonight. Apparently, the 5 people tonight were Dominik Dijakovic, Mercedes Martinez, and Mia Yim. We knew that. And the other ones were Shane Thorne and Dio Madden. So Dio Madden is another one that we recognized. Shane Thorne, I kind of forget what he even looks like. So he must have been the Miz-looking guy. I only remember a couple of Shane Thorne matches, so I don't even know really what his face looks like. Well, that would be great. I really hope WrestleMania does get moved or something, just for my own sake. All I want in life is for Lee to be WWE champ and Riddle to be Universal champ. That would be great. There's a really good, I think it was from Evolve. Where was it? A few months back, I just watched it on YouTube. Really good match with Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. Pretty sure Keith Lee beat him. Some independent match. It was good, though. Yeah, I know, Madeline. Yeah, you're holding out hope because you're up there. You'll be able to go. I mean, we're looking at what the NFL is doing. I mean, they have, very, very small crowds there as well. So, I mean, we're inching closer, but still, you're asking a lot, in a short amount of time. I mean, April will be here before we know it. I think we might even have a better outlook by then. I think maybe, the corner would be turned, but I still don't think it would be time for 80,000 people to be in the same place at the same time type of thing. So I feel like we'd get there and hopefully, by WrestleMania 38, everything is back to normal, and hell, then it comes back here to LA and I will have a full-on weekend, and it'll be like the way it used to be. I don't know. But yeah, I think as every day goes by, the chances definitely get slimmer and slimmer. That's for sure. Close these out. I got way too many windows open. I don't need that many. There we go. That's better. Yeah, you heard it could be Adam Pearce. I've been speculating on Adam Pearce being in Retribution for at least 3 weeks. As soon as he yelled at the security guards, it's the first time he ever yelled at the security guards on Raw, whatever week that was. I was like, he could be in on it, because if this continues to be a thing and Retribution continues to get past their security, every week he's mad. Tonight he's same thing. He said, "You guys can't do your jobs." I'm like, well, how the hell how are they failing this badly? If you keep hiring new security teams that apparently are better than the one you previously had, how do they fail every time? Somebody's got to be pulling some strings here. Somebody's got to be tipping off or smartening up Retribution guys of where the security is going to be placed and where they're going to be and what time, so they can get in and sneak in and all that stuff. You feel like they couldn't pull something like this off without some help from an insider, from a mole. There's just no way. So they did that a lot, I think with the NWO too, like secret members every now and then, and somebody's revealed to be in on it or whatever. So kind of like Bischoff. So I think if Pearce turns out to be one of the people helping out, it would make a lot of sense. I'm expecting it because he's been featured more on TV lately. I mean, before he was just kind of the, they didn't really talk about him much if he ran out there as a producer to do a pull apart in a brawl. They didn't make reference to him, that he's Adam Pearce and where he was and who he is and shit like that. So the fact that he's on TV more as a character, he did the stuff with Vince and the Postman Pierce. He's kind of cutting promos a little bit, and getting an opportunity to deliver some lines and stuff on TV every week. His role is increasing. So I think there's a reason for that. And I think he's going to be part of Retribution. That's what I'm calling. What would Fiend be like in WWF early 90s? I see him clashing with Papa Shango. I think Papa Shango and the Fiend could do some shit together. That would be one bizarre, spooky match. Somebody needs to make that on a video game. All you video game fools out there, y'all are good at that. Put that match together, Papa Shango and the Fiend, and make it a real fun stipulation match. The winner gets to drink the melted brain of the loser. Something like that. That would be a good good stipulation. The melted brain match. The MBC. They should get that AEW security. Michael Cole is the leader. Yeah. We talked about Cole already. That's so funny. Somebody already mentioned him as the potential leader. That would suck. I don't have to hear that guy's voice enough on commentary as it is. Now he's going to cut promos in the ring. No, thank you. Oh, thank you for that, Deshaun. Appreciate another super chat. I'll check that out now. Did you do it in a DM? In one of them direct messages? Or was it a direct tweet? Yeah, a lot of people have been making the connection and the comparison to Aces and Eights as well. And Aces and Eights was another faction that did have some funky bits to it. It wasn't that great. There was a couple parts of it that were good, but a lot of people, for the most part, criticized Aces and Eights for how lame it was. Okay, so thank you for that, Deshaun. I'm going to read this tweet here. This is from Tim Jarrell of PW Unlimited. Has WrestleMania 37 and its weekend events been quietly moved from LA next year? The Staples Center recently added a Spanish group as running on, I'm not going to even read that, as running on Friday, March 26th and Saturday, the 27th. Those two nights are supposed to be SmackDown and NXT TakeOver in that arena. Very odd. That is odd because if they're putting something else in there, that means that it can be in there. So why wouldn't WWE just be there? Unless they're thinking they can't. Yeah, they might. Maybe they have. Maybe WWE's already decided this internally, and they've told Staples, like, we're not even going to try. We're not going to bother. We're going to focus our efforts here. It's almost like not worth the hassle. They should probably stay put in Florida in terms of like building the best show that they can instead of coming all the way out here. And so maybe they let Staples Center know, and Staples is booking things, but if they book, something on those nights, there's going to be people in that arena. So I don't know. And we know that WrestleMania is going to be at SoFi, but all of the weekend festivities in terms of wrestling shows are going to be at Staples. So yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of hope so. But thank you for that, Deshaun. Thanks for sending that over. Todd, I don't know. Cole was back on Raw. They didn't offer, or at least I didn't hear, an explanation as to why Phillips and Samoa Joe were not on the show. Cole recently was Cole on Raw last week too? I know he recently called a Raw. I usually tune out the announcers, but I think he might have been there last week. And then tonight was Dolph Ziggler and MVP. Very weird. Alan Samuel, as Michael Cole said tonight on Raw, Braun Strowman, he's not back on Raw. Anybody can be on Raw Underground. That's what they said. You can be on Raw or SmackDown and appear on Raw Underground. So I don't think Braun is on Raw. I think he's just on Raw Underground. I don't think Braun should be out on the ring in the main set and in the Thunderdome doing matches, but if he wants to show up and just take out his frustrations in the Raw Underground, why not? I mean, is Braun, too, did you guys notice what he was wearing tonight? Is Braun the first guy ever to tribute the Truth Commission? That's what it reminded me of. The Truth Commission. I'm old enough to remember the Truth Commission. They had a lot of Kit Kat advertisements tonight. I'm old enough to remember when Kit Kats came in tinfoil. You guys remember that? And so did like Hershey bars and Nestle Crunch and all those. There'd just be like a layer of foil. that you could easily tamper with. But I lived through that era. Never ate a razor blade or nothing. Yeah, exactly. That was Aces and Eights' big problem. And that's the problem with a lot of factions. Sometimes it starts out well and it just fizzles, because some of us had mediocrity or mediocre hopes for Retribution when they did the Molotov cocktail and they attacked and everything. And then as soon as they busted out that chainsaw and we realized that they were all 5'5", that's when it got a little weird and they haven't recovered from it. Like every week they just do more and more that's just like make us go, I don't know what the hell's going on. So yeah, I don't know. WrestleMania at Staples Center wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, I don't see that happening though. I think it's not about. I think what you don't want to do is go smaller. I think the bigger the better in terms of social distancing, and you want to be outdoors. I think that's why NFL is allowing a few fans in at 25% because everybody can be distanced and be outside. AEW Dynamite is doing the same thing since Daly's Place is largely kind of open air as well. So I think moving WrestleMania to a smaller confined space is not a good idea, and I don't think they're going to do that. I actually think. What I think, and I'm kind of biased here because it would be a great load off of my back stress-wise if I just didn't have to worry about WrestleMania being here. But what I would do is try to give it to Tampa. It might not be at full capacity, but you could have a crowd there. If you can have crowds at football games and that slowly increases, you can theoretically have a crowd. Maybe it's not packed, but you can have a crowd at WrestleMania. It would look weird. I mean, part of the fun of WrestleMania is just to see the sea of people. So it'd be a little more distanced, but you could essentially do it if you wanted, and everybody would be outside and distanced, and it would be as safe as possible. So keep it in Tampa since they kind of lost out on WrestleMania last year, and then wait a year and come down here or come out here to LA. That way I can be there for the whole weekend. Yeah, Braun is there due to the brand-to-brand invitational. What was the other one called before that? What was the one where you can go 4 in a week? Not the shake up, but I forgot what the hell it was called. They have a million different excuses of why they can move talent. Oh, and apparently, I should say this. We did get a trade. Of course, we talked about that on Saturday, but Mandy Rose has been traded to Raw. They ran a vignette for her tonight. And apparently somebody from Raw is going to be heading to SmackDown. I don't know who they got, though. And apparently this is all done by The Miz. And because Miz is trying to get his hands on that briefcase. And say it was The Miz in Retribution tonight. Apparently it was Shane Thorne. But if The Miz is behind Retribution, or if he's a part of Retribution, there could be a tie-in with Mandy. Like Miz called in a favor and pulled some strings to get Mandy to Raw where Retribution is. So they can target her and potentially hold her hostage or ask for the briefcase as ransom or something like that, and going to be manipulated by The Miz, and he was in charge of Retribution and traded Mandy over there. So now she's in the path of Retribution and she could get hurt and Otis could get involved or whatever. So Miz is up to something, but apparently that was Shane Thorne and not The Miz. Sure did look like him though. No, I did not see that. Madeline says, AEW says that Michael Nakazawa put oil on the top rope, causing Seidel to fall. I like that save. That's what they're saying. It's okay to admit a botch. Sometimes it's fun. I'd have more respect for him if they just admitted it. Seidel did. He wasn't making excuses on Twitter. He was kind of like, well, that was embarrassing or whatever. And he kind of made light of it. I can look past it. I mean, it was a terrible moment. It wasn't as bad as Shockmaster. Nothing beats that. So it wasn't that level of a botch. But I just remember thinking what he must have been thinking as soon as he botched the move, and in his head he's got to finish that battle royal knowing that Twitter is losing their shit. He's probably in that ring going, they are killing me right now. That's got to be very stressful and not a fun experience for a wrestler to go through, but it wasn't that bad. I was just happy he didn't hurt himself, because doing a shooting star, your head is pointed down and you could, if not landed right, you could injure yourself badly. So the fact that he survived that botch, he was fine. He was able to continue the match, shook it right off. I'm happy about that. But that's funny that they try to make an excuse for it. It's all good, AEW. Nobody thinks less of you because one of your guys botched. That guy used to work in WWE too. So it's not that big a deal. That's too much thinking for WWE. I don't know. They might have been thinking pretty hard today because I went outside and I smelled smoke. A lot of smoke from these fires here in Southern California. I'm safe. We don't get a whole lot of them in my immediate area, but there's been this like blanket of smoke, haze, and this haze over in the sky. And then today I could smell it, like actually smell the smoke. So it's gross. Yeah, well, that will be what, late January or February, Deshaun, if the COVID issues improve. Super Bowl can have fans at 50 to 65%. That would be nice. I mean, we'll get there. I mean, that's the thing. It's going to be a slow process. It's not going to be like a switch and say, oh, everything's back to normal now. We'll slowly, take one step at a time. That's really all you can do. And we have seen a few declines in, in some of the numbers, but we're also right off a Labor Day weekend, and we might see another increase here. But we're not getting the better of it yet. But it is like kind of reassuring to know that, we are at least having a small drop in the amount of cases and stuff, and hopefully, in a year, we can get life back to normal here. Oh, yeah, Real American. I ain't going to lie. The Shockmaster botch was the worst thing. That's just, God, I still can't believe it. Still can't believe it. I watched it. I watched that happen. It was so bad, man. It was so awful. Davey, he fucking fell on his ass or whatever he said. Oh, my God, the helmet rolls. Oh, my God. That's wrestling, though. I'm glad we've had these type of botches, man. It's fun. Born to botch. That would be funny for him to put that on his trunks. Yeah, and another good point there by Andrew. We're talking about WWE and their time that they're going to have here at Amway Center. And apparently the building is free for the rest of the year, but WWE's only signed a lease through, I think, October. So they're going to have to roll that over because that's just a perfect home base for them, with everything kind of being in Orlando there. To have to leave that state, and go somewhere else and have to do a large amount of traveling is probably just going to goof things up. So until, we get to the point where it's safe to put, I'd say like 50% of people back into arena, I think WWE should stay right where they are, produce all their TV there. And then once they can allow an audience, then they might want to start traveling a little bit so, other cities can have a chance and stuff. But I think they should I think we should see the Thunderdome for the rest of the year, and we should not consider anything else until at least 2021. Be interesting to see if we can get a Royal Rumble in a stadium or something like that. We'll see. Or if everything's just going to be Thunderdome forever. Was there any funny Thunderdome people tonight? I didn't notice anything. I think last week there was some AEW people in the Thunderdome, and I know Miro was on the NBA one on TNT. Oh, yeah, wild card rule. That one, too. Thank you. Couldn't remember the name of that. Dean Ambrose might be back at the Royal Rumble. Mustafa Ali and Retribution. I kind of would like to see Mustafa Ali be the leader or still tie in the Hacker. It's not too late. They can still do that, I think so. What is the worst reveal? Black Scorpion and WCW, Rikishi on Stone Cold, or the Higher Power? That's tough. That is tough. They're all different in terms of size. Like the Black Scorpion was a very big disappointment, but to me, it didn't have the same suspense as the Higher Power. Maybe it did, because you were expecting a WWF guy to be the Black Scorpion, I think. A lot of people thought it might be Macho Man or something or whatever, and then it turned out to be Flair. But the Higher Power, being involved with The Undertaker at such a huge time in WWE when the ratings are as high as they've ever been, and so much speculation. I remember talking about Jake Roberts and The Ultimate Warrior and $1 Million Man and all these different possibilities of people, including even Christopher Daniels, who would be excellent choices for the Higher Power. Then it turned out to be Vince. It's hard to vote against that. That was a pretty shitty reveal. But maybe I won't say that, because one thing about the Higher Power is they did bounce back. As bad as that reveal was, overall, that was still a really good segment because Austin killed it. He came out right after that when Shane and Stephanie. I remember my friend was over with me watching it at the time that night live on Raw, and she ended up dying laughing when Austin came out there with like the red tie. Thought it was the funniest thing she had ever seen in her life. After I was kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe it's Vince. And then Stephanie and Linda announce Austin is the new CEO, and he makes a bunch of matches and he's got the tie on and shit. So and he got a huge pop. I mean, when the glass shattered, the crowd went nuts. The roof blew off the place. So even though that segment sucked, it finished super, super strong. I might say Rikishi, because when Rikishi was also revealed on Raw, and when he says, "Okay, I admit it, I did," I mean, it was very quotable. I did it for The Rock, but it didn't get the reaction from the crowd. I mean, there were some oohs and ahs, and Mick Foley was the one that figured it out, I think. And then Rikishi admitted it, but it was kind of like, Rikishi? So I might go with that one. That was just a disappointing reveal to me, because when Austin came back, the last person I expected him to feud with was Rikishi. You really thought it was going to be The Rock or something, you know? And that's the problems with these big reveals or these whodunits or something. If you have a perfect person in mind, and most of the fans kind of unanimously agree that would be badass, and then it's not that, it's like a disappointment every time. So Rikishi was just a huge one. And they knew it, because as they booked that storyline, as they went, they decided that it was probably better to change the story now and have Triple H be the one who was behind it all. And Triple H would have been the one that would have made sense right from the start. But I think WWE wanted to have fun with it and want to swerve us. And if they would have revealed Triple H from the start, it would have almost been a little bit understandable, not predictable, but the fans could say, oh yeah, I can see that. I can see it being Triple H, because of all the problems he's had previously with Austin and how much he had to gain by Austin being gone. You could make the same argument for The Rock. But Rikishi was a completely different deal, and they still tried to tease it. Remember, they were still trying. It was like WWE couldn't decide if they wanted to turn Rock heel or not, because there was a promo on Raw after the reveal with Rikishi and The Rock, and Rikishi said something like, do you want me to tell them something? Do you want me to tell everybody the truth? And then Rock's like, tell them what? You like pudding or something like that, or you just insulted him or whatever he said. So it was like, it still felt like they were still teasing, or still at least leaving that possibility open that they could make it The Rock. And then they ultimately decided to make it Triple H, which did make sense, you know, because he did achieve a lot when Austin left. I mean, he already won the title prior to Austin getting hurt, but he really thrived and became like a major star all in that year of 2000, retaining the title at WrestleMania and everything he did there, and beating Mick Foley at the Royal Rumble and shit like that. So he had a huge year with Austin out of the way. So it made sense. They should have just made it him from the beginning. And shout out to Triple H for surviving the forklift drop. Yeah, and Rikishi turned face. I remember the night he turned face. I think it was, that's how sick my memory can be. I can't remember what happened last week on Raw, but I can remember this. I'm pretty sure Rikishi, I think he turned face in Nassau Coliseum. I think it was a Monday Night Raw. And he came out there, and I think Mick Foley was involved or something, and he kind of just slowly became face again. It was really weird. Like, they realized the whole thing was dumb. They should have never made him the driver. And I thought it was going to be hard for him to ever turn babyface again, especially that quickly. 6 months later, he's back to being a face. This guy should be in jail. He ran somebody over. You're going to forgive him in 6 months and just be okay with him dancing again? After he tried to run over and murder WWE's top star? Fans were very forgiving back then. Oh, can I give you a recommendation of a pay-per-view from the Attitude Era to watch this weekend? I watched Royal Rumble 2001 from yesterday, Backlash 2004 as well yesterday. Okay. Well, by the time we got to 2004, I don't consider that Attitude Era, so I'm going to go something like 97 through 2001, I guess. Have you ever seen Backlash, or I'm sorry, not Backlash, or Backlash, yeah, Backlash 2000 is good. Fully Loaded 2000 is good. With the triple main event thing, it's Rock, Benoit, Triple H, Jericho, and Taker and Angle. That one's awesome. What was good in 98? Was anything good in 98? I was at Unforgiven. That was okay. Breakdown sucked. What was the, oh, that one sucked too. Oh yeah, the one where Austin got fired wasn't good. Yeah, 98 was not great aside from SummerSlam. I'm going to go Fully Loaded. And I would say Royal Rumble 2001. You've already said that one because that had the great like ladder match, right? Jericho and Benoit. That was good stuff. How was Backlash 2001? Was that any good? I'm going to say Fully Loaded 2000 right now. Off the top of my head, Madeline. Okay, thanks, Jonathan. So if you can dance good, we overlook a lot of things. That's good. So I can try to run somebody over, but if I can drop it like it's hot, y'all are cool with me, that's good to know. Appreciate that, guys. I know you always have my back. In case you have to bail me out one day. Yeah, Daniels would have been awful as a higher power because nobody knows him. But he could have grown on us. You never know. Would have been weird seeing him, though. Like that little guy, you know, with the Undertaker, you know, and all these giant people in the corporate ministry. He would have been strange. He would have been a strange choice. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Naveed, No Way Out 2001. That was like the triple stages of Lindy, or what was the match between Austin and Triple H? Triple H beating him. That was good stuff. Oh, and the I think Judgment Day 01 was good too. There was two title matches, right? That was I remember really liking the Intercontinental match. It was Kane and Triple H, right? I think it was like a chain match, and Kane won the title. That was good. And the very next night on Raw is when Triple H had the quad injury, when they dropped the tags. Fully Loaded was in Dallas. That's right, it was. Yeah, two-man power trip won all the belts. That's right, it was the tag match with Brothers of Destruction. And then the following pay-per-view after Backlash was when they had the two one-on-ones. Austin retained, I think, against Taker, but Triple H dropped his title to Kane, which is interesting because the following month, I believe, was May. It would have been Judgment Day, May of 2001. That was the third time that Undertaker and Austin worked the May pay-per-view. They worked Cold Day in Hell, 97. They worked Over the Edge, the night Owen died. And they worked 2001. Very interesting, huh? They might have worked another one I can't think of. I think that was it, though. Jake would have been the perfect higher power. He really would have been the right guy, just based on promo, you know, but he was not in a good place. The higher power was the same year that like Beyond the Mat came out. So we knew he was in rough shape, and it took him nearly almost 2 more decades to really clean it up. So he just wasn't going to be possible, you know? And plus you got to remember too, that was only 3 years removed from him being there. He was there 2 years removed. He was there. He worked Rumble 97. So he was there even in 1997, and then he just went really downhill. He was probably really close to rock bottom around that time. I know I don't count the UK pay-per-views. Nothing against the UK fans. You guys are great. Wrestling would not be the same without you guys. But in terms of like WWE's pay-per-view calendar, I don't ever count UK pay-per-views as the next one in line because nothing ever happens on them. Yeah. Val Venus and Rikishi cage match was good. Rikishi came off the top, right? You know what I was live to see? What I was in the audience to see in Richmond? It was Raw. It was the Benoit and Kurt Angle cage match. When Angle did the moonsault off the top of the cage, I was on the floor. I was on the floor behind the announce table for that. That was an incredible thing to visualize and see in person. Very awesome. And even Shane McMahon, I can't remember if it was during that match or another part, but I was on the aisle. Or I was on the end, like our row. I was sitting right on the end, and Shane did a run-in, and I'm sitting there watching the match. I've told the story before. I'm watching the match. Daniel, if you're in the chat, you were with me. Watching the match and just paying attention to whatever the hell's going on in the ring. It might have been the cage match because he was feuding with Angle at that time, I think. But because that was right around King of the Ring time. And they had that brutal match or whatever. But whatever was going on in the ring, I was focused on that. And I kind of just, out of my peripherals, I see something right next to me. But there's not a seat next to me. And I look down, and Shane McMahon is just crouched right next to me, like right next to my seat. And I'm like, oh, I could have like just put my arm on his shoulder. I'm like, hey, and he's just watching. He's just waiting for his cue. And so I'm watching the ring. I even tell him to go. I'm like, go. I think you go now. And he's like, shut up or whatever. So finally I remember saying like, go, 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 go. And then he ran in and did a run in. And I forgot who the hell even attacked that night on Raw. But that was the same show. So that was fun stuff. Always one of my fun stories of being at the show. I saw great things in Richmond, that very same building. I was also there for the Mick Foley or the Cactus Jack Terry Funk Falls Count Anywhere match or the Arena Brawl or whatever. They were all up in the stands and all that. They brawled right past me, and you can kind of catch a glimpse of me a little bit on the broadcast on Raw. But that was another good moment in that same building that I got up close and personal with some of the action. Shout out to Richmond, to all my Richmond peeps. And that Richmond Coliseum is a pain in the ass to drive into. It's kind of like right in the middle of the city, and you have to like quickly get off the freeway and get in there and get parked. It's a very stressful place to drive, from what I remember. There's that big, awesome like mall and like food court across the street, and we'd go over there and see everybody. Raven, tie-dye guy, who still goes to shows. Who, Seth Rollins turned around and looked at you? That's awesome. He made eye contact. Did you guys have a connection? Greg, there are backstage rumors that Bruce Pritchard has become tyrannical. Well, maybe. He has got to be the most stressed out dude. Why would he do that? And how the hell is he doing the podcast? I am so far behind in the Conrad podcast faction. I haven't listened to any of them in months and months and months and months. So I have no idea what's going on with Something to Wrestle. But is Bruce still doing that? And are they still as in-depth as they have always been? Because they always prepared those podcasts brilliantly. I mean, they're so informative and stuff. But Bruce, how in the world can he have a job like he has and still do that? He's got to be different now. He's got to be grumpy as shit, I would think. I would be. I'm not even blaming him. Like, that's just a crazy job to have. And then have to have a podcast that prior to this was the only thing you were doing. It's only a matter of time. Like, that can't hold up. He can't be in charge for this long. And I wouldn't want to be. I'd be like, Vince, you can't do this to me, dude. It's too much. Yeah, I mean, and I like Bruce Pritchard a lot or whatever, but Bruce does, he can be super condescending and stuff. He's got a lot of experience, and sometimes he can talk down to, younger talent or whatever, and he's got an ego himself, and all that probably factors in. He's plenty of people in shoot interviews. I have so many shoot interviews in my wrestling collection and stuff, and I've heard a lot of people not say great things about Bruce. Some people like Bruce, but some people have had problems with him. Luckily, I never worked there, so I got no beef with the guy, but I can see how you're going to, anytime you're in a position of authority, you're not everybody's going to love you and sing your praises. You're going to have people that don't like you so much. It's the way it goes. Oh, wow. That's really awesome, James. You sent him an autograph request and he did it? That is very cool. The best male-female dating duo. Dating or married? I mean, Stephanie and Triple H eventually got married. Mero and Sable were also married. Dating duo? I might say Edge and Lita. That was some hot shit, man. Is there anything like more smoking hot than 2005 Lita? For crying out loud, man. That was a crazy time. And they were pretty hot and heavy there. And plus there was so much realism there with the affair and everything that went on with Matt Hardy and that whole situation. Yeah, in terms of a couple just dating, it's got to be Edge and Lita. Because that was so in your face, both of them. And they would rub it in everybody's face in live sex celebrations and promos and just making out in front of everybody. They were so, if anything was in your face, not tonight's Raw, Edge and Lita were in your face in 2005. That was a lot. Good night, Ron JMTV. I don't know if that means Ron Jeremy. Ron JMTV, good night to you, man. Appreciate you being here. Oh, what about Bruce Pritchard? Yeah, well, Jim Cornette said that Pritchard constantly got fired from other wrestling companies, including Impact, because he liked controlling everybody. Yeah, I'm sure there's a controlling aspect to his personality for sure. And he has been fired a lot of times. Yeah, I don't know. I still think, if Bruce wants to be a crazy psycho, he's not going to be as bad in WWE. He was probably worse in TNA, when they probably did give him a lot of control and authority. Now, even though he's a right-hand man and he's a lieutenant of Vince, it's still Vince's show, so he can only be tyrannical to a certain extent. Vince still is the one that's going to, at the end of the day, call the final shot. So Billy and Chuck, best dating couple. They were just friends, Barry. They made that very clear to everybody. I still like the wedding. That was great with Bischoff. You didn't even know. I didn't recognize him when he started peeling that shit off. As soon as he started doing it, I knew, but I don't know how. I didn't recognize him. And he said that 3 minutes thing. Both 3-minute warning guys are passed away. Can you believe that? Would I rank Randy Orton in my top 25 of all time? Top 25 of WWE, probably. If we're going on championships and resumes, I'd probably say yes. But there's like so many different aspects to doing a top 10 list. You know, how are you going to count it? Like, what's the criteria? You know, because if you're just doing championships, you know, that means that Jinder Mahal deserves to go in before Jake the Snake Roberts, and that's fucked up. But if you're going by championships and accomplishments, then that's true. It's got to be like a combination of things. That's why it's so hard to do top 25s, or top 10s or top 5s. Any list is going to be just opinion based, really, is all. So it's hard to get an official one. I'm bad at those. I need to do another listing video, another top 10 or something. I've got some video ideas and some stuff I'm working on behind the scenes, so there will be stuff coming. Also, there's going to be some changes cosmetically. I move out of this apartment 2 weeks from today. So 2 weeks from today, there will be no Raw stream. I'm sorry. I'm going to be moving that morning and going to be going into a bigger house, and I've got a really awesome room and office set up for the YouTube channel. And I'm going to try to document it a little bit in terms of like taking video of, you know, what I'm doing and how I'm setting up everything. It should be a lot of fun. So next Monday Night Raw will be the final stream with like this behind you. And some of this might even be gone by then. And then after that, it'll be me on the night of, what the hell is it called? Clash of Champions. The night of the pay-per-view is the night before I move. So it's just going to be me and a computer and like a bunch of blank walls. So that's going to be a really fun stream. It's just going to be me in like an empty room doing a stream. And that's going to be the only thing I'm going to have left really out is my computer. And then as soon as I'm done streaming, I pack everything away. Movers come in the morning and I'm out of here. So I'll have everything hooked up on 2 weeks from Monday, but I'm not going to be in a position to come up and live stream for Raw. I'll be lucky if I can even watch Raw that night. Yeah, so we're going to be under construction here for a little bit. And I've got a pretty good idea. The room is so nice. It's so big in this house. We got this big house that we're renting. So I'm going to have a pretty sweet setup in here or in there, and it's going to look pretty cool. So in the next 3 weeks, you should see some pretty big changes to what you guys are looking at here. And I'm going to do my best to come up here with, you know, some videos or some news briefs this week or something like that prior to Saturday. But I am very busy right now, working a lot and preparing for my move. So the next 2 weeks could just be Raws and Winged Eagles, and then, of course, the Clash of Champions review. But I'm hoping I'll get up here and do a couple things during the week. I'm working on a little side review for Devlin. I'm going to review an ECW pay-per-view in the month of October, and a couple of other little ideas, and working on some stuff behind the scenes as well. So there's stuff going on, but in terms of how much you see me on YouTube for the next couple of weeks, it might be like slightly limited, but it should be cool. We should have a good, it'll be good, nice kind of change of pace, nice facelift, nice rebirth to get a new kind of working space. I've been here in this place now for 3 years. This is where my live streams were born. About 3 years ago, I finally said I should start doing live streams, and I did. And now it's primarily what I do, just because of my crazy work schedule and everything. It's fun to be able to do this a couple of times a week and then just do other videos on the side, and it's worked out really well. So that'll continue. Hopefully it'll be just as good as ever, and yeah, keep a lookout for that in a couple of weeks. I'm excited. Might make a fun bonus video, too, for the channel. Do a pre-recorded show for 2 weeks. That would be fun. The Clash predictions, that I will have to try to do. That's not going to be until next week, so we'll probably do Clash predictions probably on the Winged Eagle. We'll just do it Saturday. Not this Saturday, but the Saturday after. We'll throw in some predictions for the Clash. I could come up and do standalone predictions like on Thursday or something. Possibly I could do that. Just do a quick like 30-minute stream predicting the pay-per-view. But in all likelihood, I will just do them all on the Winged Eagle. So this week's Winged Eagle and the following Saturday's Winged Eagle will be normal time. Nothing will really change there too much. And then, yeah, review after Clash. And then the following Monday, I won't be up because I'll be moving. Yeah, I used to not even be on camera. Not because I didn't want to be, because I didn't have a webcam. I didn't even know how to do it. I just made video. I just recorded my podcast and then uploaded it to YouTube, and I did that for so long before I finally realized that, there's an audience for people who do live streams. It's fun. And to be honest, it's easier. And I get to hang out and interact, which I didn't get a chance to do when I was like doing my, aside from the comment section, but when I was recording everything. But I still like to record my like classic reviews, classic pay-per-view reviews that I really like doing. So most of those are all still going to be recorded, but I kind of like the schedule coming up here after Raws and after pay-per-views and on Saturdays for the podcast. Makes it fun. Oh, that's right. Barry, you do too. Jesus Christ, you got your TNA pay-per-view. Yeah, Barry's got one coming up too. So I got ECW and TNA coming up. I was actually just looking for that the other day because I got to figure out how I can watch that. I don't have it in my my collection. And that's a 10-year anniversary, right? That's going to be fun. Cool. So October should be fun, but the rest of September will be a little funky because I'm going through changes. My body is going through changes. I'm kidding. Oh, Jesus. Thank you for the $5, Deshaun, before I head out of here. Appreciate it. Fun fact, when Ronda, Becky, and Charlotte got into that backstage brawl, oh, that was marvelous. Last year, before WrestleMania 35, I was there backstage because I work in that arena. No shit. Did you get to see any of that? I don't know. That was just so bonkers. I mean, they kicking out the glass of the cop car, Ronda just going nuts and screaming out the window, and Charlotte being all a mess. Like, that was one of my favorite women's segments of all time. Like, I loved it. I thought it was just so over the top and so well done and so fun. Like, I found myself laughing, but also being impressed at the same time. And just the way Ronda was just so intense and the way she handled it was great. Good stuff. Where was that? I forgot. What arena do you work in? Do I think Ronda could beat up Triple H in a real life fight? No, maybe. I don't know. I remember when Holly Holm knocked her out. That was crazy. Ronda was kind of an asshole, you know? It was funny. My girlfriend and I, for some reason, we always have ridiculousness on, like MTV. Like, it just, if we need something on in the background, it's always just that. And I saw a Dana White one from like 2012. And I was walking around the house, and Dana White was the guest on Ridiculousness. And they were talking about, and Diedrich or Rob, whatever his name is, the host, he's talking about MMA. He's like, yeah, like MMA is really like starting to gain a lot of popularity. You guys are becoming really big. And Dana goes, yeah, we got this new girl. Her name is Ronda Rousey. And he just goes on and talks about this like new girl that they have a high hopes for. You know, she's an ass kicker and she gets in people's face and she talks trash. And we really think that she has a potential to be a really good fighter. And this was before like she barely even had a fight in UFC or whatever. So just to see that was like pretty cool. I'm like, wow, how far Ronda has come. But she was an asshole, man. She talks so much shit, had such an ego and stuff. It's tailor-made for wrestling, but I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I think a lot of people like to see her get her face kicked off by Holly Holm in that match. That was good stuff. You hear Charlotte charges for autographs like her dad and Hogan? Not in like public places, right? I think if she's doing an autograph signing, she's probably charging. I don't know how they work. But I mean, I think if you run up to Charlotte in the airport and say, can I have your autograph? She'd be like $5. That would be crazy. She'd probably just say no. I would do what I can. Like if I was a wrestler and I had a big following, I would do whatever I could before I like mentally broke. You know, I would tolerate the fans. I'd be polite and, you know, and I'd let them approach me or whatever, as long as they didn't get crazy, as long as they didn't like insult me or be mad or that I couldn't do it or whatever. I would do my best to be polite, you know, but there's definitely going to be days where you're going to be very, very tired. And there's going to be days where you're very, very busy or you're trying to catch a next flight and somebody wants an autograph. And sometimes you don't have time to politely explain that you can't do it. You have to just be like, no, sorry. And then they go online and say, hey, it was an asshole to me or whatever. So I'd be bummed out if I tried so hard to please all the fans. And then the one time, you know, you can't accommodate somebody, they get all mad and call you a dick on Twitter or whatever. It's got to be hard, you know, for wrestlers to deal with that because the fans they're assholes. They will turn on you in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. If you don't give them exactly, don't satisfy them exactly the way they want to be satisfied. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. Hey, Jordan Carg, what's up, man? Good to see you. Appreciate the $2. Thank you for the condolences on my grandmother. Yeah, she lived a nice, long life, passed away Saturday morning. She was 96, and she just died of old age. So it was a long time coming for her, and we're all in the family just really glad that she's at peace. But I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I dedicated the podcast to her on Saturday, but I warned you guys about a week or so ago that she was kind of on her way out. She was kind of on her deathbed. Organs failing, and they're just waiting for her to slowly pass. So I thought it could affect the channel schedule this week, but it never really did. I was able to do everything as normal, and yeah, we all dealt with it. Yeah, Ronda not only got knocked out, she got knocked into the WWE. That was pretty, because then she had another fight and she got beat up again, right? So that was like the magic was gone. I think even her personal confidence was shattered when Holly Holm knocked her down like that. I don't think she really felt, because I mean, she felt like she was invincible. You could see it in her face, the way she carried herself, the way she handled herself in those weigh-ins, and the way she'd be in the ring. She just get in anybody's face. She was fearless. But I think, that Holly Holm fight humbled her a little bit, and she didn't quite have that same confidence, in that next fight. She got beat down again, and then she was in WWE, and I thought she was great in WWE. She was a really good wrestler for somebody who was there a year. Oh, okay. We thought that might be the case with Mickie James. We talked about the wonky finish in the Asuka match and how she was kind of in the Asuka lock, and then the referee called for the bell, and she seemed surprised. But we also speculated that maybe since the referee said she can't continue, that he noticed something or thought that she was hurt, and she might have popped out her shoulder out of place there, and that's why he stopped the match. Yeah, I don't know why Ronda thought about suicide after the Holly loss. That's a shame. You put so much into you being a fighter, something like that would actually make you consider ending your life instead of being proud of what you've done. A loss or not, whether Ronda gets knocked out or not, she should be able to look at her life and be like, holy shit, I stood atop of the MMA world. I'm going to be the MMA female Hulk Hogan. I'm going to be the Babe Ruth of female MMA. I'm going to be like the trendsetter and the one that kind of started it, and I'm going to be revered, and I'm going to have a statue erected in my honor one day, in UFC Hall of Fame or whatever, and all the money she made, the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that she made. It's a shame that a loss like that can do that much damage to you mentally, especially when you put so much into it. I'm glad that she did not follow through with those suicidal thoughts, because she was able to take that and then transition it into an extremely successful pro wrestling career that was only a little bit over a year long, but she was still really impressive, and I would love to see her come back. Plus, she has respect for the business. She was an idol of, or she was Roddy Piper was her idol, and she patterned her look after him. I thought that was all great. We could get a lot worse out of a UFC person who has no respect, no love for wrestling at all, just using it for a payday. At least Ronda liked wrestling. Zayn, I don't know now. I don't know if Lesnar would lose credibility in WWE if he lost a match in UFC now. I remember back in 2016 when he had the Mike or Mark. I always say Mike Hunt. It's Mark Hunt. When he faced him in 2016, I remember doing a review of that fight on YouTube after it, because I was very worried. WWE let him go do the fight. They promoted the fight, I think, in WWE, and they promoted SummerSlam on the UFC card. But I remember Randy Orton was going to face Brock that year at SummerSlam, and they even announced it at the UFC show. And based on who Brock was and how he's put over and booked in WWE, I thought a loss in UFC would damage him a lot. I was nervous. I'm like, he cannot lose. So I was very, very happy when he won, even though he got it all stripped away from him, because then he tested pissed dirty or whatever in the doping thing. But at the time, I was just kind of at the edge of my seat that year, because I'm like, man, he cannot lose this. Now he's a little bit older. He's been out of the game for much longer, and a loss, I guess, wouldn't be that shocking. But I think he could recover from it a lot easier now than he would have been able to, I think, in 2016. So it's a good thing he won the Mark Hunt match, because that could have messed him up. Yeah, Jacob Fatu's doing good things in MLW. I like him. If they brought him to WWE, I think they need to wait on that. If they brought him in right now, though, I probably would try to get him involved in the Roman stuff. You're thinking maybe a stable with Roman and the Usos, because Roman's going to murder Jay at the Clash. So if there's a way to keep them in a faction and keep them together, I don't know. But with Roman versus Heyman, I kind of feel like he's a loner now. But if Jacob came in, he feels like he'd be a guy that'd be hanging in NXT for a while. I don't know if they'd really capitalize on the family connection between him and Roman, because Roman has a family connection to a lot of people in WWE, and just bringing him up like that, I don't know. I'd like to see him keep doing his thing in MLW where he can be on top of the mountain. Yeah, and if they could still do the John Jones fight, man, that would be crazy. I kind of hope Brock just stays out of the of MMA, but he could be going back there now that he's officially gone from WWE, and apparently Bellator has even reached out to him a little bit, so he could do a fight there. Don't know. We shall see. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We've been streaming for about 2 hours now, and we got through the Raw results rather quick, and we've just been shooting the shit ever since then. But I appreciate the audience, even though it was a little bit smaller this week. I appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, I'm in the middle of kind of moving in the next couple of weeks, so I will be up here this Saturday for the Winged Eagle. If I can get up here prior to that, I will. And as a matter of fact, as of right now, I'm off Wednesday night, day after tomorrow, so I'll be able to watch Dynamite. I probably won't do a stream, but I might. I'll decide Wednesday. So follow me on Twitter at GoodMikeWork, on social media, and I'll try to put something on YouTube as well if I decide to do a stream Wednesday night just for fun, just to review Dynamite. But I don't want you to count on it, because likely I won't. But it's something to think about. If you don't see me Wednesday, you'll see me Saturday. I appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. Have a great rest of your Monday night, and I will catch you hopefully in just a couple of days. Y'all be good. Peace.